Ideas behind the machines. The idea of incarnation. I sought myself through earth and fire and seas, and found it not, but many things beside, behemoth old, leviathans that ride, and protoplasm, and jellies of the tide. Then wandering upward through the solid earth with its dim sounds, potential rage and mirth, I faced the dim forefather of my birth, and thus addressed him, all of you that lie, safe in the dust or ride along the sky. Lo, these and these and these, but where am I? The grasshopper may be called the poet of the insects. He has more hop for his size than any of the others. I'm very fond of watching him, especially of watching those two enormous beams of his that loom up on either side of his body. They have always seemed to me one of the great marvels of mechanics. By knowing how to use them, he jumps 40 times his own length. A man who could contrive to walk as well as any ordinary grasshopper does, and without half trying, could make 250 feet at a step. There is no denying, of course, that the man does it after his fashion, but he has to have a trolley to do it with. The man seems to prefer, as a rule, to use things outside to get what he wants inside. He has a way of making everything outside him serve him as if he had it on his own body, uses a whole universe every day without the trouble of always having to carry it around with him. He gets his will out of the ground and even out of the air. He lays hold of the universe and makes arms and legs out of it. If he wants at any time, for any reason, more body than he was made with, he has his soul reach out over or around the planet a little farther and draw it in for him. The grasshopper, so far as I know, does not differ from the man in that he has a soul and a body both, but his soul and body seem to be perfectly matched. He has his soul and body all on. It is probably the best and the worst that can be said of a grasshopper's soul, if he has one, that it is in his legs, that he really has his wits about him. Looked at superficially, or from the point of view of the next hop, it can hardly be denied that the body the human soul has been fitted out with is rather an inferior affair. From the point of view of any respectable or ordinarily well-equipped animal, the human body, the one accorded to the average human being in the great show of creation, almost looks sometimes as if God really must have made it as a kind of practical joke, in the presence of other animals, on the rest of us. It looks as if he had suddenly decided at the very moment he was in the middle of making a body for a man, that out of all the animals man should be immortal, and had let it go at that. With the exception of the giraffe and perhaps the goose or camel, and an extra fold or so in the hippopotamus, we are easily the strangest, the most unexplained-looking shape on the face of the earth. It is exceedingly unlikely that we are beautiful or impressive, at first at least, to anyone but ourselves. Nearly all the things we do with our hands and feet any animal on earth could tell us are things we do not do as well as men did once, or as well as we ought to do, or as well as we did when we were born. Our very babies are our superiors. The only defense we are able to make when we are arraigned before the bar of creation seems to be that while some of the powers we have exhibited have been very obviously lost, we have gained some very fine new invisible ones. We are not so bad, we argue, after all. Our nerves, for instance, the mentalized condition of our organs. And then, of course, there is the superior quality of our grey matter. When we find ourselves obliged to appeal in this pathetic way from the judgment of the brutes, or of those who, like them, insist on looking at us in the mere ordinary, observing, scientific, realistic fashion, we hint at our mysteriousness, a kind of mesh of mysticism there is in us. We tell them it cannot really be seen from the outside how well our bodies work. We do not put it in so many words, but what we mean is that we need to be cut up to be appreciated, or rather seen in the large, or in our more infinite relations. Our matter may not be very well arranged on us, perhaps, but we flatter ourselves that there is a superior, unseen, spiritual quality in it. It takes seers or surgeons to appreciate us, more of the sort, etc. In the meantime, no man can deny the way things look. Here we all are, with our queer, pale, little stretched-out legs and arms and things, floundering about on this earth without even our clothes on, covering ourselves as best we can. And what could really be funnier than a human body living before the great sun, under its frame of wood and glass, all winter and summer, strange and bleached-looking, like celery grown almost always under cloth, kept in the kind of cellar of cotton or wool it likes for itself, moving about or being moved about the way it is in thousands of queer, dependent, helpless-looking ways. The earth, we can believe, as we go up and down in it, is full of soft laughter at us. One cannot so much as go in swimming without feeling the fishes peeking around the rocks, getting their fun out of us in some still, underworld sort of way. We cannot help, a great many of us, feeling in a subtle way, strange and embarrassed in the woods. Most of us, it is true, manage to keep a look of being fairly at home on the planet by huddling up and living in cities. By dint of staying carefully away from other animals, keeping pretty much by ourselves, and whistling a good deal and making a great deal of noise called civilization, we keep each other in countenance after a fashion. But we really are the guys of the animal world, and when we stop to think of it and face the facts and see ourselves as the others see us, we cannot help acknowledging it. I, for one, rather like to and have it done with. It is getting to be one of my regular pleasures now, as I go up and down the world, looking upon the man's body, the little funny one that he thinks he has, and then stretching my soul and looking upon the one that he really has. When one considers what a man actually does, where he really lives, one sees very plainly that all he has been allowed is a mere suggestion or hint of a body, a sort of central nerve or ganglion for his real self. A seed or spore of infinity blown down on a star, held there by the grip apparently of nothing. A human body is pathetic enough looked at in itself. There is something indescribably helpless and wistful and reaching out and incomplete about it. A body made to pray with, perhaps one might say, but not for action. All that it really comes to, or is for apparently, is a kind of light there is in it. But the sea is its footpath. The light that is in it is the same light that reaches down to the central fires of the earth. It flames upon heaven. Helpless and unfinished looking as it is, when I look upon it, I have seen animals slinking to their holes before it, and worshipping or following the light that is in it. The great waters and the great lights flock to it, this beckoning and a prayer for a body which man has. I go into the printing room of a great newspaper. In a single flash of black and white, the press flings down the world for him. Birth, death, disgrace, honor and war and farce and love and death, sea and hills and the days on the other side of the world. Before the dawn the papers are carried forth. They hasten on glimmering trains out through the dark. Soon the newsboys shrill in the streets. China and the Philippines and Australia and the East and West they cry, the voices of the nations of the earth, and in my soul I worship the body of the man. Have I not seen 2 trains full of the will of the body of the man meet at full speed in the darkness of the night? I have watched them on the trembling ground. The flash of light, the crash of power, 90 miles an hour, 20 inches apart, thundering isles of souls. On into blackness, and in my soul I worship the body of the man. And when I go forth at night, feel the earth walking silently across heaven beneath my feet, I know that the heartbeat and the will of the man is in it, in all of it. With thousands of trains under it, over it, around it, he thrills it through with his will. I no longer look, since I have known this, upon the sun alone, nor upon the countenance of the hills, nor feel the earth around me growing softly or resting in the light, lifting itself to live. One must look up to stars and beyond horizons to look in his face. Who was there, I have said, that shall trace upon the earth the footsteps of this body, all wireless telegraph and steel, or know the sound of its going? Now, when I see it, it is a terrible body trembling the earth. Like a low thunder it reaches around the crust of it, grasping it, and now it is a gentle body, O Signor Marconi. Swift as thought up over the hill of the sea, soft and stately as the walking of the clouds in the upper air. Is there any one today so small as to know where he is? I am always coming suddenly upon my body, crying out with joy like a child in the dark, and I am here too. Has the 20th century, I have wondered, a man in it who shall feel himself? And so it has come to pass, this vision I have seen with my own eyes. Man, my brother, with his mean, absurd, little unfinished body, going triumphant up and down the earth, making limbs of time and space. Who is there who has not seen it, if only through the peephole of a dream? The whole earth lying still and strange in the hollow of his hand, the sea waiting upon him. Thousands of times I have seen it, the whole earth with a look wrapped white and still in its ball of mist, the glint of the Atlantic on it, and in the blue places the vision of the ships. Between the seas and skies the shuttle flies. 7 sunsets long, tropic, deep, thousands sailed, half in waking, half in sleep. Glistening calms and shouting gales, water golden green, and many a heavenly-minded blue. It thrusts and shudders through, past my starlight, past the glow of suns I know, weaving fates, love and hates in the sea to the stately shuttle, to and fro, mast by mast, through the farthest bounds of moons and noons, flights of days and nights, flies fast. It may be true, as the poets are telling us, that this fashion the modern man has, of reaching out with steel and vapor and smoke and holding a star silently in his hand, has no poetry in it, and that machinery is not a fit subject for poets. Perhaps. I am merely judging for myself. I have seen the few poets of this modern world crowded in their corner of it, in Westminster Abbey, and I have seen also a great foundry chiming its epic up to the night, freeing the bodies and the souls of men around the world, beating out the floors of cities, making the great limbs of the great ships silently striding the seas, and rolling out the roads of the continents. If this is not poetry, it is because it is too great a vision. And yet there are times I am inclined to think, when it brushes against us, against all of us, we feel something there. More than once I have almost touched the edge of it, and I have looked to see the man wondering at it. But he puts up his hands to his eyes, or he is merely hammering on something. Then I wish that someone would be born for him, and write a book for him, a book that should come upon the man and fold him in like a cloud, breathe into him where his wonder is. He ought to have a book that shall be to him like a whole age, the one he lives in, coming to him and leaning over him and whispering to him, "Rise, my son, and live. Dost thou not behold thy hands and thy feet?" The trains like spirits flock to him. There are days when I can read a timetable. When I put it back in my pocket it sings. In the timetable I carry in my pocket I enfold the earth. I have come to despise poets and dreams. Truths have made dreams pale and small. What is wanted now is some man who is literal enough to tell the truth. The idea of size. Sometimes I have a haunting feeling that the other readers of Mount Tom, besides me, may not be so tremendously interested after all in machinery and interpretations of machinery. Perhaps they are merely being polite about the subject while up here with me on the mountain, not wanting to interrupt exactly and not talking back. It is really no place for talking back, perhaps they think, on a mountain. But the trouble is, I get more interested than other people before I know it. Then suddenly it occurs to me to wonder if they are listening particularly, and are not looking off at the scenery and the river and the hills and the meadow, while I wander on about railroad trains and symbolism and the Mount Tom pulp mill and socialism and electricity and shop and pure and the other things tracking out relations. It gets worse than other people's genealogies. But all I ask is that, when they come, as they are coming now, just over the page to some more of these machine ideas, or interpretations as one might call them, or impressions or orgies with engines, they will not drop the matter altogether. They may not feel as I do. It would be a great disappointment to us all, perhaps, if I could be agreed with by everybody, but boring people is a serious matter. Boring them all the time, I mean. It's no more than fair, of course, that the subscribers to a magazine should run some of the risk, as well as the editor, but I do like to think that in these next few pages there are spots, and that people will keep hopeful. Some people are very fond of looking up at the sky, taking it for regular exercise, and thinking how small they are. It relieves them. I do not wish to deny that there is a certain luxury in it, but I must say that for all practical purposes of having a mind, I would be willing to throw over whole hours and days of feeling very small any time, for a single minute of feeling big. The details are more interesting. Feeling small, at best, is kind of a glittering generality. I do not think I am altogether unaware how I look from a star. At least I have spent days and nights practicing with a star, looking down from it on the thing I have agreed for the time being, whatever it is, to call myself, and I have discovered that the real luxury for me does not consist in feeling very small, or even in feeling very large. The luxury for me is in having a regular, reliable feeling every day of my life that I have been made on purpose, and very conveniently made, to be infinitely small or infinitely large as I like. I arrange it at any time. I find myself saying one moment, are not the whole human race my house servants? Is not London my valet, always at my door to do my bidding? Clouds do my errands for me. It takes a world to make room for my body. My soul is furnished with other worlds I cannot see. The next minute I find myself saying nothing. The whole star I am on is a bit of pale yellow down floating softly through space. What I really seem to enjoy is a kind of insured feeling. Whether I am small or large, all space cannot help waiting upon me. Now that I have taken iron and vapor and light and made hands for my hands, millions of them, and reached out with them. A little one shall become 1,000. I have abolished all size. Even my own size does not exist. If all the work that is being done by the hands of my hands had literally to be done by men, there would not be standing room for them on the globe. Comfortable standing room. But even though, as it happens, much of the globe is not very good to stand on, and vast tracts of it every year are going to waste, it matters nothing to us. Everything we touch is near or far, or large or small as we like. As long as a young woman can sit down by a loom which is as good as 600 more just like her, and all in a few square feet, as long as we can do up the whole of one of Napoleon's armies in a ball of dynamite, or stable 12,000 horses in the boiler of an ocean steamer, it does not make very much difference what kind of planet we are on, or how large or small it is. If suddenly it sometimes seems as if it were all used up and things look cramped again, which they do once and so often, we have but to think of something, invent something, and let it out a little. We move over into a new world in a minute. Columbus was a mere bagatelle. We get continents every few days. Thousands of men are thinking of them, adding them on. Mere size is getting to be old-fashioned as a way of arranging things. It has never been a very big earth at best, the way God made it first. He made a single spider that could weave a rope out of her own body around it. It can be ticked all through and all around with the thoughts of man. The universe has been put into a little telescope and the oceans into a little compass. Alice in Wonderland's romantic and clever way with a pill has become the barest matter of fact. Looking at the world a single moment with a soul instead of a theodolite, no one has ever been on it. Before would know it. It's as if the world were a little wizened balloon that had been given us once, and had been used so for thousands of years, and we had just lately discovered how to blow it. The idea of liberty. Someone told me one morning, not so very long ago, that the sun was getting a mile smaller across every 10 years. It gave me a shut-in and helpless feeling. I found myself several times during that day looking at it anxiously. I almost held up my hands to warm them. I knew in a vague fashion that it would last long enough for me, and a mile in 10 years was not much. It did not take much figuring to see that I had not the slightest reason to be anxious, but my feelings were hurt. I felt as if something had hit the universe. I could not get myself, and I have not been able to get myself since, to look at it impersonally. I suppose every man lives in some theory of the universe, unconsciously every day, as much as he lives in the sunlight, and he does not want it disturbed. I have always felt safe before, and, what was a necessary part of safety with me, I have felt that history was safe, that there was going to be enough of it. I have been in the world a good pleasant while on the whole, tried it and got used to it, used to the weather on it, and used to having my friends hate me and my enemies turn on me and love me and the other uncertainties. But all the time when I looked up at the sun and saw it, or thought of it down under the world, I counted on it. I discovered that my soul had been using it daily as a kind of fulcrum for all things. I helped God lift with it. It was obvious that it was going to be harder for both of us, a mere matter of time. I could not get myself used to the thought. Every fresh look I took at the sun peeling off mile after mile up there, as fast as I lived, flustered me, made my sky less useful to me, less convenient to rest in. I found myself trying slowly to see how this universe would look, what it would be like if I were the last man on it. Somebody would have to be. It would be necessary to justify things for him. He would probably be too tired and cold to do it, so I tried. I had a good deal of the same experience with Mount Pelee last summer. I resented being cooped up helplessly on a planet that leaked. The fact that it had leaked several thousand miles away and had made a comparatively safe hole for it out in the middle of the sea only afforded momentary relief. The hurt I felt was deeper than that. It could not be remedied by a mere applying long distances to it. It was underneath down in my soul. Time and space could not get at it. The feeling that I had been trapped in a planet somehow and that I could not possibly get off, the feeling that I had been deliberately taken body and soul without my knowing it and without ever my having been asked, and set down on a cooled-off cinder to live whether I wanted to or not, the sudden new appalling sense I had, that the ground underneath my feet was not really good and solid, and that I was living every day of my life just over a roar of great fire. That I was being asked, and everybody else, to make history and build stone houses and found institutions and things on the bare outside. The destroyed and ruined part of a ball that had been tossed out in space to burn itself up. The sense, on top of all this, that this dried crust I live on, or bit of caked ashes, was liable to break through suddenly at any time, and pour down the center of the earth on one's head did not add to the dignity, it seemed to me, or the self-respect of human life. You might as well front the facts, my dear youth. Look at Mount Pelee in the face, I tried to say coldly and calmly to myself. Here you are, set down helplessly among stars on a great round blue and green something all fire and wind inside. And it is all liable, this superficial crust or geological ice you are on, perfectly liable at any time or any place after this, to let through suddenly and dump all the nations and all ancient and modern history and you and your book into this awful ceaseless abyss of boiled mountains and stewed-up continents that is seething beneath your feet. It is hard enough, it seems to me, to be an optimist on the edge of this earth as it is, to keep on believing in people and things on it, without having to believe besides that the earth is a huge round swindle just of itself, going round and round through all heaven, with all of us on it, laughing at us. I felt chilled through for a long time after Mount Pelee broke out. I went wistfully about sitting in sunny and windless places trying to get warmed all summer, and it was not all in my soul. It was not all subjective. I noticed that the thermometer was caught the same way. It was a plain case enough, it seemed to me. The heater I lived on had let through, spilled out and wasted a lot of its fire, and the ground simply could not get warmed up after it. I sat in the sun and pictured the earth freezing itself up slowly and deliberately on the outside. I had it all arranged in my mind. The end of the world was not coming as the ancients saw it by a kind of overflow of fire, but by the fire's going out. A mile off the sun every 10 years, this for the loss of outside heat, and volcanoes and things for the inside heat, and and gradually, between being frozen under us and frozen over us, both sides at once, the human race would face the situation. We would have to learn to live together. Anyone could see that. The human race was going to be one long row sometime. Great nations of us and little ones all at last huddled up along the equator to keep warm, and just outside of this a little way it would be a perfectly empty star, all in a swirl of snowdrifts. I do not claim it was very scientific to feel in this way, but I've always had, ever since I can remember, a moderate or decent human interest in the universe as a universe, and I'd always felt as if the Earth had made, for all practical purposes, a sort of contract with the human race. And when it acted like this, cooled itself off all of a sudden in the middle of a hot summer, and all to show off a comparatively unknown and unimportant mountain hid on an island far out at sea, I could not conceal from myself, in my present and usual capacity as a kind of agent or sponsor for humanity, that there was something distinctly jarring about it, and disrespectful. I felt as if we had been trifled with. It was not a feeling I had very long, this injured feeling toward the universe in behalf of man in it, but I could not help it at first. There grew an anger within me, and then out of the anger a great delight. It seemed to me I saw my soul standing afar off down there, on its cold and emptied-looking earth. Then slowly I saw it was the same soul I had always had. I was standing as I had always stood on an earth before, be it bare or flowering one. I saw myself standing before all that was. Then I defied the heaven over my head and the ground under my feet not to keep me strong and glad before God. I saw that it mattered not to me of an earth how bare it was, or could be made to be. If the soul of a man could be kept burning on it, victory and gladness would be alive upon it. I fell to thinking of the man. I took an inventory down in my being of all that the man was, of the might of the spirit that was in him. Would it be anything new to the man to be maltreated a little, neglected, almost outwitted by a universe? Had he not already, thousands of times in the history of this planet, flung his spirit upon the cold and upon empty space, and made homes out of it? He had snuggled in icebergs. He had entered the place of the mighty heat and made the coolness of shadow out of it. It was nothing new. The planet had always been a little queer. It was when it commenced. The only difference would seem to be that, instead of having the earth at first the way it is going to be by and by apparently, an earth with a little rim of humanity around it, great nations towing the equator to live, everything was turned around. All the young nations might have been seen any day crowded around the ends or tips of the earth to keep from falling into the fire that was still at work on the middle of it, finishing it off and getting it ready to have things happen on it. Boys might have been seen almost any afternoon in those early days, going out to the North Pole and playing duck on the rock to keep from being too warm. It is a mere matter of opinion or of taste, the way a planet acts at any given time. Now it is one way, and now another, and we do as we like. I do not pretend to say in so many words that if the sun grew feeble, just what man would do down in his snowdrifts, but I know he would make some kind of summer out of them. One cannot help feeling that if the sun went out, it would be because he wanted it to, had arranged something, if nothing but a good bit of philosophy. It is not likely that the man has defied the heavens and the earth all these centuries for nothing. The things they have done against him have been the making of him. When he found this same sun we are talking about in the earliest days of all, was a sun that kept running away from him and left him in a great darkness half of every day he lived, he knew what to do. Every time that heaven has done anything to him, he has had his answer ready. The man who finds himself on a planet that is only lighted part of the time is merely reminded that he must think of something. He digs light out of the ground and glows up the world with her own sap. When he finds himself living on an earth that can only be said to be properly heated a small fraction of the year, he makes the earth to burn itself and keep him warm. Things like this are small to us. We put coal through a desire and take the breath out of its dark body and put it in pipes, and cook our food with poisons. We take water and burn it into air, and we telegraph boilers and flash mills around the earth on poles. We move vast machines with a little throb like light. We put a street on a wire. Great crowds in great cities, whole blocks of them, are handed along day and night like dots and dashes in telegrams. A man cannot be stopped by a breath. We save a man up in his own whisper hundreds of years when he is dead. A human voice that reaches only a few yards makes thousands of miles of copper talk. Then we make the 1,000 miles talk without the copper wire. We stand on the shore and beat the air with a thought thousands of miles away, make it whisper for us to ships. One need not fear for a man like this, a man who has made all the earth a deed, an action of his own soul, who has thrown his soul at last upon the waste of heaven and made words out of it. One cannot but believe that a man like this is a free man. Let what will happen to the sun that warms him or the star that seems just now his foothold in space. All shall be as his soul says when his soul determines what it shall say. Fire and wind and cold when his soul speaks, and invisibility itself and nothing are his servants. The vision of a little helpless human race huddled in the tropics saying its last prayers, the vision of all the great peoples of the earth squeezed up into Esquimaux, and furs up to their eyes, stamping their feet on the equator to keep warm, is merely the sort of vision that one set of scientists gloats on giving us. One needs but to look for what the other set is saying. It has not time to be saying much, but what it practically says is, let the sun wisen up if it wants to. There will be something. Somebody will think of something. Possibly we are outgrowing suns. At all events, to a real man, any little accident or bruise to the planet he's on is a mere suggestion of how strong he is. Some new beautiful impossibility, if the truth were known, is just what we were looking for.